Well, good morning from the Cataloochee Valley in Great Smoky Mountain National Park. I'm just pulled into the parking area here near the Pretty Hollow trailhead, which is where we'll head up initially and then head up Palmer Creek towards Laurel Gap. It's raining a little bit out there right now. Rained pretty good on the way in. Last look at the radar before I lost internet. Looked like there was still a significant amount of rain going to push through this morning, and then maybe clear up a little bit around midday, and then rain again tonight is what the forecast is supposed to be. So, per the norm for me, I think the last 5 times I've hiked in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park, it has poured down rain. So this is just my luck in the Smokies, and I get that it's a rainforest, but you'd think eventually I'd catch it with a nice weather pattern. But maybe tomorrow it'll be a little clearer. It is supposed to dip down, get pretty cold. Early morning tomorrow and really into the day. I think at the upper altitudes, it's not supposed to get much above freezing tomorrow. Right now, it's only about 50 degrees outside, so it should be a pretty nice walk this morning. About 10 miles to the Laurel Gap shelter, and then we'll make a big loop of it going up around the Sterling Mountain Ridge. And so about 10 miles out, unless I decide to head up to the old fire tower on top of Mount Sterling. That'll add an extra couple of miles if we do that, just depending on time. But I'm going to start getting ready. Hopefully the sun will start lightening up the sky a little bit. I don't like walking when it's pitch black out like it is right now because of the cloud cover. And we'll see how it goes. Well, I know you can't see much right now. It's starting to get a little light in the sky here. This is the road we came in on. Pretty windy road through Cataloochee Valley. I've never been to this part of the park before, so this is all new for me. Part of the main reason I wanted to come up here. I think we're just going to go past this gate. Probably can't read this sign very well, and I've already put my headlamp away. Let's see. Yeah, Pretty Hollow Gap Trail. And we'll go up to Palmer Creek's trail, so about a mile, 1.6 according to this sign, to get to our first turn. Yeah, so only about a half mile or so in here. This is just kind of an old road grade. You can see the first section of this little hike. Relatively easy, but should pick up at some point. Gonna be making a left up here across the creek, and trail should get a little more rugged after that and start picking up some elevation. We'll head over towards, Palmer Creek takes you towards Balsam Mountain Road, which is already closed this time of year. It's kind of another reason I chose this section of the park. I thought I'd get some solitude away from any remnants of crowds along 441 and in the middle of the park. And so far so good. There wasn't a soul in Cataloochee Valley as I saw coming in. I'm sure there'll be some day trippers, maybe local, but the rain will probably keep a lot of folks away as well. But yeah, that Balsam Mountain Road over I think it's kind of north of Cherokee, northeast of Cherokee area. That shuts down on the 1st of December, I believe, every year for the season. Kind of like Klingman's Dome Road, and it's a gravel road, real pretty drive through there if you ever get a chance in the summertime or in the fall. So we'll cut over to that and have maybe a little less than a mile road walk. Like I said, it's gravel, so it's not like hard packed. And then we'll take the Balsam Mountain Trail up further into the park toward Laurel Gap Shelter, which in my experience is one of the few shelters that's not on the Appalachian Trail. It's significantly off the trail, meaning not just a mile or so. It's to get from that shelter up to the AT. You still have a pretty decent climb, maybe another 1,000 foot, and about 5 miles. So it's kind of unique in that perspective. I've passed by it before, never stayed there, but it looks pretty nice little camp area there. It's got a nice fire ring, as I recall. Water sources should be pretty easy to find, especially with the rain coming through. But yeah, this trip is just really more about getting out in the woods. I'm not expecting any huge vistas. Just kind of walking through these forests that have been untouched for around 100 years now, and some of them longer than that. We're at our first little trail junction here. So you can see we're going to keep heading up Pretty Hollow Gap Trail. So according to this, we've been 0.8, and yeah, my watch concurs. And this, I don't know if you can read it or not, it says the Little Cataloochee Trail, Long Bunk Trail, about 4.5. North Carolina Highway 284 is about 5.2 miles up that direction. All right, coming up to the Palmer Creek Trail as the rain seems to pick up. We'll be heading up this way, as the sign says. Only about 3.3 miles to the road. If you continue up this direction, a Pretty Hollow Gap, you'll get to the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail in 4 miles. And that is actually the way we'll be coming out tomorrow. Head across this little footbridge here. Up Palmer Creek. All right, so been walking for, I don't know, maybe almost a mile so far up the Palmer Creek Trail here. And as you can see, this is one of those trails that follows the creek, but the creek is way down below us for most of it. Now I know eventually that won't be the case, because we will be crossing Palmer Creek at some point in the near future. Some lovely folks over on the Facebook Smoky Mountain hiking page informed me that I should surely be able to get across the creek by rock hopping, and I hope that's the case. I did bring water shoes with me, but with the weather as warm as it is for mid-December, which I can't remember if I said that or not, but yeah, it's December 17th and it's 50 degrees outside in the Smoky Mountains. But as warm as it is, I'm not overly concerned with a wet crossing. Last year, did the Forney Creek Trail in February or early March, I can't remember. Got some snow, and there are several creek crossings that are like thigh high on that trail, and it was brutally cold, painfully cold, but not the case today, so but we'll hope for the best. Yeah. Doing a little web sleuthing research in the week leading up to this trip. And so this area of the park was fairly heavily logged back in the 1800s and probably early 1900s as well. But it came across a really cool map on National Park website, kind of an interactive map that shows, you know, how much logging, you know, relatively speaking, and they kind of rated it from heavy to moderate to selective to never been logged. And I think there's about 100,000 of the 500,000 acres of the park that have never been logged. This is not one of those areas. And I don't think we'll be skirting through any of that virgin old growth forest today or tomorrow. We may come close to a strip of it on the Sterling Ridge. But given that this area was selectively logged, there's probably still a few good large trees in here. Might stumble across like that last one we just saw. All right, so first crossing of Palmer Creek, and we have a little footbridge. If you're a fisherman, apparently there is some good fishing in this creek. Although it does look pretty small. So I don't know how much fly fishing you're really going to get done in the true sense of the word, but all right, so I just stopped after crossing that creek and took a look at my map for a second. So that was actually Lost Bottom Creek. Flows into Palmer Creek just beyond that. Lost Bottom actually would be a pretty cool off trail to explore, because if you followed that creek up and bushwhacked, which it doesn't look pretty awful actually, it gets into a little flat space terrain wise about a mile up the creek, but then you could follow the creek bed all the way up to the Laurel Gap shelter. Like I said, it would be a pretty tough way to get there. I guess the hardest way to get there, but it did look like it might be doable if you're willing to push through all the rhododendron that I imagine you'd run into heading up that direction. But if you're into off-trail stuff, I've thought about it here in this park, but man, I mean, you just look down into this mess. If you've ever tried to walk through that, you know how unbelievably frustrating it can be just to go a couple hundred yards. There's a reason the old timers used to call them rhododendron hells. I think it felt like you were stuck in hell, or at least purgatory. I don't know. Anyway, another couple of miles before we get to the Balsam Mountain Road. Nice little waterfall there. Rain's definitely picking up. Temperature's still holding. As you can see, we're leaving the creek behind here, starting to climb out of this, up on this ridge before we get up to the top of those mountains and to the road. This is kind of the extent of the views I expect on this trip. Still pretty. And right before I started filming, I heard a crash down the hill here from me. I hear something down there, I believe, but it's hard to pinpoint it with the rain still coming down a little bit. deer or something. The rain has actually let up a lot as we're moving up this ridge line. The forecast today had said that wasn't even supposed to start raining until about 10 or 11 a.m. It's still only about 9 o'clock. It looks like we may be getting a break for a minute, which is what the forecast predicted, a break in the afternoon and then rain coming back at night. So maybe it's just coming in a little faster than they expected. But either way, I'm glad to take the hood off for a minute. So we gain this ridge as we approach Balsam Mountain Road up here. Should be no more than half a mile at this point. We'll say temperature has kind of dropped after we got up on the ridge top. You can kind of see sky through rhododendron that way and that way now. And it's leveled off significantly as well. I believe once we get to the road, we'll be downhill for a minute, and then we will start back up once we start heading up the Balsam Mountain Trail. All right, I pretty much made it to the road here, but I took this little side trail. There's like a little clearing on this area here and some sort of antenna, I don't know what that is, fenced off. I did see on a couple of maps that some of this area on this ridge was labeled as a campground. Can't remember the name they used, but definitely wasn't on the official national park list of campsites. So I don't know, maybe at one point in time it was, and they don't use it anymore. But yeah, the road is right up that way. I could see it when I turned off a second ago, so we'll be on the road here in just a second. I'm gonna see if this is a cell tower. I don't think it is. All right, just made it to the road here. See Balsam Mountain Road. This is just kind of in the turn here. There's room for a couple of cars to pull off here and park if you wanted to go into Cataloochee that way. Like I said, I'm not going to do it this time of year, but in the spring, summer, or fall. So we got about a mile road walk here, and we'll pick up, I believe it's the Balsam Mountain Trail. That's what we'll eventually be on, at least. And head up to Laurel Gap. All right, coming to the end of the road walk. And let's just say I'm pretty happy about that. Oh. The Mount Sterling Ridge is 4.3, so the Laurel Gap shelter should only be about probably 0.3 this side of that, so about 4 miles up. And I'm ready to start going uphill because it is getting chilly. And to pick up a little elevation gain here. This will take us right kind of to the top of Ledge Bald. May skirt the top of it a little bit, and then drop down a little bit to where Beach Gap Trail intersects. And from there we will be officially on the Benton McKay Trail until sometime tomorrow whenever we turn off the Mount Sterling Ridge Trail. But pretty area here in this woods. There's not a lot of thick underbrush and kind of out of the rhododendron, a little drier forest, I guess, on these ridge lines. But definitely still raining. Lightened up a little bit, but kind of no end in sight here. Alright, I think this is the top of Ledge Bald. Looks like it could have been a bald at one point in time. Pretty spooky on days like this, just with the clouds and the wetness and coldness. But for some reason I like doing this to myself. Alright, drop down to Beach Gap Trail and then we'll climb back up before we get to the shelter. Love big old trees like this. I don't know if there's something living down in there or not. I'm not going to test it out. This is an ancient looking tree. Kind of funny, come off that Ledge Bald area where I was just a minute ago and come on the other side here and it's a completely different forest. Got these evergreens, pines, and fir trees. Such a cool place in the Smokies. It's the diversity that's crammed into a relatively small area of our country is shocking sometimes. Alright, we're at the Beach Gap Trail. It takes you back down to the road. Another section of the Balsam Mountain Road. This Mount Sterling Ridge Trail is 2 miles, but we should be just before that. That's where our shelter is. And you can see this is the marker that lets you know you're on the Benton McKay route. Alright. Got a little bit of a climb out of this gap. A bit of a climb actually. Kind of get up and over that hill in front of us. And head back down the other side of it. You know something lives in there. Or is sleeping in there. I don't know if you can hear that or not, but there's a squirrel over there who is not happy about me being in his woods. At least that's assume. I assume that's what his deal is. Send out the warning signal. Strange blue guy in the woods. Anyway, we're coming up on Balsam High Knob. Kind of up the trail, and then we'll pass it on the right side, meaning it will be on the left side of the trail as we're traveling. And that will be our high point for the day. I think it is just shy of 6,000 feet above sea level. Maybe like 5,900, if memory serves. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen. But climb out of Beach Gap wasn't actually as strenuous as I thought it was going to be. Looking at the map. If it hadn't been for the cold rain, it would have been a very pleasant little walk. But cold rain, well, it's cold rain. What do you expect? It's lightened up a little bit right now, which means it'll probably start pouring on me here in a second, because I said that. But I'll take the brakes when I can get them. All right, we're coming up on the Long Gap Shelter. Over here, past this rhododendron. There it is. We made it. All right, so this is the Long Gap Shelter and where we are staying for the evening. All in all, pretty good hike. Definitely wet and cold toward the end there. Well, wet all day, but I am going to dry out or attempt to dry out. Maybe looking around for some sticks to burn, because we have a good little fireplace over here, and some old shovels to manage that. Whole thing I'm gonna mess with the actual fire pit, because it's supposed to rain a little bit more this afternoon. Or tonight. All in all, about 5.5 hours from the time I left the car. Which isn't too bad. Looked like it was just shy of 10 miles getting up here. So with all my stopping and looking around and whatnot, guess I averaged around 2 miles an hour. So not as fat and slow as I thought I was. All right, one little thing I was going to show you. Got my rain cover and rain jacket. They're both pretty drenched. Hanging up over there, so you can see I had the rain cover on it. Starting to get a little wetness there, here, of course the hip pouch areas. Back of it, everything is pretty dry, so it does a good job. But if you've never been backpacking in heavy rain before, or you try to avoid it, worried about stuff like this happening, because eventually those rain covers will fail if they get wet enough. You can see, hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. All of my stuff, except for my food bag, is in a, what do you call it? Not trash compactor bag. It's a little bit thicker plastic, doesn't tear as easy. And I actually, on this trip, because I knew it was going to rain so much, I put my main compartment stuff in one, and the sleeping bag and sleeping pad in the sleeping bag compartment in a separate bag, because I just really didn't want to be dealing with cold, nasty wetness of that. And that's a trip killer kind of thing. So yeah, anyway, don't totally rely on these things to keep you 100% dry. All right, so kind of got everything I need to be hanging up and drying there. Roll over there. Fire is a little bit of a bust, although I'll admit I didn't try really hard. I mean, it's going. There's just so little dry wood. Everything is just soaked through to the bone. Like I said, if you really wanted to, you could make it work, but yeah, about a little survival fire is all you're gonna get. Besides, it seems to, the smoke kind of blows down the chimney every now and then anyway, so I don't know if I want that going all night long. Flip this around here. A little tour. That's another little eating spot out here. This is operates as a horse camp as well as a hiker camp, so they have hitches over here for horses. There is not a privy at this site, which is a little unusual for the shelters in the national park. But like I said, this one's not on the AT, and I think it's the only one that's not on the AT. But you can see here, you got the bear hang. Nice little sign that says toilet area this way. So I'm guessing kind of this little nook back in here. Probably don't want to put a tent back there. And then one thing I did want to mention is there's a very clear path to go get water over here. But you go down right after that rise. And the first creek bed you come to is limited, to say the best. And if it hadn't have been raining, there'd probably be very little trickling through there. If you're like me and you have like a dirty water bag for like a Sawyer filter or something, it's always super difficult to fill those up if there's not like a little like spout of water. But if you go down there, if you're at this shelter, you go down there, go down to the first little creek, you'll notice some bare roots on the hill, on the bank right across from you. If you just scramble up and over those, they do have a piece of PVC pipe in the creek there. It makes it super easy to fill this up. Took me like 12 seconds to fill that thing up over there. But it's not immediately noticeable when you walk down there if you've never been down there. I had read somewhere, I can't remember where, but somewhere before coming up here that there was, if that first creek was a little dry, you could walk up and find a better one. So anyway, thought I'd pass that along. It's only about, I'm looking at my watch that doesn't exist. I think it's only about 2:30 right now. So I'm still hovering around 50 degrees. Like I said before, I think its temperature is supposed to drop after this front moves through. Can't talk. But we'll see. Hopefully it's not too terribly cold tomorrow. Most of the stuff is drying out. I mean, I had a dry shirt and whatnot. And the pants, honestly, these are Prana pants. They're already drying out, just wearing them around. So pretty happy with those. But yeah, that's your little tour of the campsite here. Good morning. Good rainy morning. It rained most of the night. I think since about 3:30 in the morning, it rained pretty hard. It's kind of taking a pause right now, but I was able to get service long enough to talk to my wife, and it looks like it's probably going to be off and on rain until at least 1 o'clock today, which I will probably be back at the car by then. So
We're just gonna have to power through and slodge through the rain. I'm gonna make a little quick breakfast here. The always popular biscuits and gravy from Mountain House. It's better than it sounds. But all in all, I was definitely glad to be in a shelter last night and nice and dry and warm. And we will eat a little breakfast and get on the trail here in a minute. All right, we are leaving the Laurel Gap shelter. We'll head up this direction, a little further up the trail that we were on yesterday, maybe a quarter mile. I think the sign actually said 0.3. And we want to hang a right and follow the ridge line over to Pretty Hollow Gap. And then we'll head down that trail back to the car. Should be about 9 or 10 miles, give or take. We'll see how it goes. First 4 miles or so is actually going to be pretty flat just along the ridge line. So nice easy walk first thing in the morning here. Finally getting some little glimpses over into the valley there. See the low-hanging clouds. We're up above those for now. But, this trail, although they call it a ridgeline trail, you can see you're not actually on the ridge. That's uphill from us, a couple 100 feet vertical. But it just follows the side of the ridge, I guess you'd say. But hopefully we'll get some open views like that along the way. All right, we're coming up on the crossing of Lost Bottom Creek. We actually crossed this yesterday, right where it fed into Palmer Creek. This is the one I was saying, if you wanted to, you can bushwhack up. Supposedly there's decent fishing in Lost Bottom Creek. Again, I don't know how you're ever expected to be able to cast, but obviously not right here, but maybe a few 100 feet below us. There might still be some rainbow trout. Pretty little stream though. Kind of a confluence, just all coming off the ridge line up here. As I try not to step in the mud puddles quite yet, because it's not raining yet. And my feet are somewhat, well, okay, they're not dry, but they're not split splashing every step. So these are, again, the views we're getting up here on the ridge, kind of blocked by trees, but with the leaves off this time of year, you can see pretty good. That direction right there, just over that ridge line, is where the car is parked. So we got to go way over this way, and then we'll drop down and head right out just past that ridge into the Cataloochee Valley again. Here in a few hours. All right, as we're walking through this cloud here, I can tell you for the first time in a couple of days where the sun is in the sky. And if we look back this way, there's even a little bit of blue sky. I don't think I'm gonna attempt Mount Sterling Fire Tower, because just twisted my ankle again a minute ago. My same ankle I sprained back last spring. It's fine, still walking. But I just rolled it really good. We'll see. We've got another few miles before we have to make that decision. I'll tell you, I'll be pretty tempted to go for it as I come across the big pile of scat here. Not looks a little more than what a coyote leaves behind. You can really see the low-hanging clouds down in the valley now. The sun's starting to peek through, lighting up all the tree branches. All right, we're starting to decline down the mountain towards Pretty Hollow Gap. Kind of coming off the shoulder of the Big Butt Mountain behind us there. So this trail follows, I don't think I mentioned this before, but it follows the Sterling Mountain Ridge, but actually Sterling Mountain's down and then back up. So back behind us here, there's like three peaks right in a row, and I think it's Balsam Mountain, Big Cataloochee, and Big Butt. Really like these spruce and fir forests up on these ridge lines because there's very little undergrowth. I always feel like if I'm going to see a bear, this is where it's going to be because it's not as many places to hide. Kind of look off this way and see what I'm talking about. Now, we are mid-December, but black bears don't necessarily hibernate all winter long. They do get up and scrounge around, especially the males. And proof of that was on the trail just a moment ago. Saw a nice big pile of bear scat. I think I've seen a few other piles on this trip, but that was pretty definitive. You could see the seeds and stuff in it, which they like to eat a lot of this time of year. But we are, I believe, coming up on the trail junction here in just a minute as we come into this little gap area. All right, at our intersection here, Pretty Hollow now to my left, and what's that, Palmer Creek Trail to the right there. Big Balsam Mountain Trails, where we came from, Mount Sterling. about 1.5 miles up that way. I think that trail intersects right at the peak of Mount Sterling. Campsite 38 right past that. And then one other little sign over here for Swallow Fork Trail. All right, I think I'm definitely gonna head back towards the car. It's about 5 miles down Pretty Hollow Gap. And can I just say one more time, I really love these old trees. This one's got a ton of moss on it. This looks really cool in the fog. Although, the amount of rot underneath it doesn't look good. It may not be here much longer. All right, let's drop down into Pretty Hollow Gap. All right, so about a mile from the last trail intersection there, up at, I guess, what would be called Pretty Hollow Gap. And trails, you know, took a pretty deep dive off there. So going the other direction would be fairly steep. This is kind of what I'm expecting looking at the map the rest of the way. Just a more gentle downhill, maybe a couple of little steep spots, nothing too crazy. I would say if you're going up, would fall under the heading of a fairly strenuous hike, depending on how in shape you are. It's not technical at all. Even me with my bum ankle is navigating it pretty easily. So, but real pretty area, excuse me, as the name implies. Haven't seen a lot of wildlife. Did see some tracks a minute ago. Maybe just some deer. Definitely wasn't wide enough to be a bear, but it was kind of where it slipped in the leaves in the mud, so you couldn't really make out exactly what it was. But anyway, we'll be getting close to the creek here in just a little bit. I'll get you some shots of that. First little creek crossing we're coming into that leads into the main creek down the way there. Pretty easy rock hop, it looks like, as I bust my butt, probably. Pretty little area. All right, my feet were just about dried out, but no way in heck that I'm trying to cross that log right there, as slick as that looks. But wish me luck. Maybe we can go across right up here. Really deep right there, definitely over ankle depth. Oh man, here we go. All right, success. And I didn't get soaked. And I didn't bust my butt. Onward and downward. some more stream crossing. Alright, looks like we're coming up on Backcountry Campsite 39. I'm not sure what that is. This looks like some old hitching post or something. I don't know, bucking chutes or something. Yeah, I don't know what we're doing here. But I think the actual campsite's a little further down. Looks like somebody stayed here last night or sometime recently. Yeah, here's campsite 39. I was right, there's a sign right up there that says horse camping right on up. So that's what we passed first. And so I guess the actual campsite is a little further back in the woods there. Yeah, I think I see bear cables up that little rise right up there. So pretty spread out area, real close to the water. You see the creek right over there. And you're only a couple miles in from the parking area right here. So if you just want to do a little short overnight with the kids or something, this is a pretty good one. All right, we made it back to where we first turned off and headed up the Palmer Creek Trail yesterday. So like the sign says, we only got about 1.6 miles back to the car. So all in all, pretty decent little trip. Rain yesterday wasn't too fun. Hiking in the rain is usually not super fun for most folks, but you still get to see a lot. It's got its good points in the sense that we just did a 20-mile loop in one of the most visited national parks in the country and didn't see a soul. Not even at the parking lot. So part of that's the time of year, right? In December. And part of that's the rain. So the time of year kind of keeps the tourists away. The rain kind of keeps the locals away. But nice fun outing if you're willing to push through some of the pain a little bit. We'll get back to the car here in a minute and head out of, I should say find my way out of Cataloochee Valley, because I realized a moment ago that I'm hoping there's not too many intersections, because there's definitely no cell service in these parts of the mountains here. And so a little worried on finding my way back to the interstate. There's a really windy mountain gravel road most of the way. And then once you got like into the national park, it was paved again pretty soon after. Yeah, very windy road. Not going to get through that section very fast. But for me, I'm ready to get back to the car, and I'm already daydreaming about what fast food restaurant I'm going to partake in on the way out. Well, looks like my car is still here, always a plus. I thought I was going to make it all the way back and be able to say that I didn't see a single person, but I just saw one fly fisherman. So, I don't know, less than a quarter mile to the car, does that count? Anyway, like I said before, good 20-mile loop with almost no other people. Thanks for watching.